Yo, it's the homie Mac. It's the homie Mac. Music, art, culture, knowledge. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel 82 Kings. Follow the movement on Instagram at MAKTV_82. Appreciate all the likes, the shares, the comments. This channel is growing at a high speed. I appreciate all the support. And today is actually my birthday. I appreciate everybody that showed me love, all the texts, emails, phone calls, inboxes, everything. Inbox messages, everything. Real quick though, I want to talk about what's known as the Tupac Lost Prison, the Tupac Lost Prison tapes, which was an interview that Tupac did in 1995, where he what happened? He was interviewed at Clinton Correctional Facility. Clinton Correctional Facility is a prison in Dimona, New York. But let me give context for everything. He actually was tried and convicted for what? For sexual assault. Some of the other charges were sodomy, weapons charges, and I think all in all he was charged with he had 18 charges, but it got reduced to sexual assault. In hindsight, when I think about it, I don't think he actually raped his accuser, but what I do think happened was he always said his biggest mistake was closing his eyes. He said that some more men that came in the room and they essentially had a gangbang on her. And I think it's one of those things where maybe she felt as though she was taken advantage of, which is understandable. But sometimes when I hear her story, it's kind of inconsistent. But bottom line is, I don't think Tupac sexually assaulted her, but I think he put her in a space where she may have been vulnerable, and some of Tupac's entourage was they took advantage of that. But from my understanding, it just so happened that Tupac was the biggest name there, so she just kind of pinned it on him. But again, sometimes, like, when sex can not necessarily be consensual. Sometimes a woman may comply out of fear, and I'm thinking maybe that's what happened. I don't know. The story gets kind of murky, but he was sentenced to 1.5 to 4.5 years in prison. He actually, I think the term is what, commuted. Well, not commuted, but he essentially he only had to serve 9 months. I think he got out on appeal. He was bailed out by Suge Knight. Hence his allegiance with Death Row Records. But to give more context, around this time also, Tupac was shot. He was shot at Quad Recording Studios in Manhattan. I think they said they took some money from him. They took a lot of jewelry. He got shot in his groin. He got shot in his hand, and he got shot in his head. And you can tell, like, that was like a turning point. I mean, naturally so. If someone makes an attempt on your life. But that was a turning point in his paradigm. I think he says he wasn't paranoid. Let's just say Tupac was extra cautious after that event. But yeah, there were so many things that happened in his life in such a short sequence, to go from, being on trial for rape and other charges, and as you're about to go on trial, you get shot, you get assaulted, you get shot 5 times. So you're going to the trial all bandaged up. It was just a series of unfortunate events, to put it mildly. But yeah, let's go back to the interview. One of the first things that really stood out to me in Tupac's interview was he was shocked. He was really shocked that any black man would assault him. Any black man would try to attempt to take him out. Because I think his shock from being shooting came from the fact, like, look, I am a messenger. I'm on a campaign. I am representing black life. I'm representing black revolutionary struggle. I'm doing this for y'all. So how y'all gonna kill me? How y'all gonna try to kill me? That was the sentiment he expressed in the interview. It's almost like, not that he thought he was invincible, but more or less, again, he's speaking up on behalf of black people. So why would they want to take him out when he essentially is a messenger, a prophet, if you will? Because a lot of the things that he said in his music happened. Around this time also, another sidebar, around this time also, during this interview, his album, Me Against the World, was released. So while he was in jail, Me Against the World was out for the public. I want to say it was number 1 on the billboards for a while. He sold over 2 million copies. I mean, more than that, as time went on. But I think from the point of its release, within the first couple months, he sold over 2 million copies. But yeah, he talks about how, as a shorty, unfortunately for black men, incarceration is almost like a rites of passage. And he talks about how, like, oh man, they telling me jail is the spot. Like I'm gonna get put up on so much game. I'm gonna meet so many different, cool cats or whatever. And he said it like it was the total opposite. Like he got put on game, but the energy was dark. He talks about being treated like an animal, how he didn't like the living conditions, how at one point he said this in the Tabitha Soren interview, but he said at one point he was called a rich nigger with the hard ER, and he was looking around like, dang, this dude just called me a nigger, and everybody around him was like, so that's just prison. There isn't much of a code of ethics of how y'all treat each other. It's whatever. But yeah, you could just tell that within the first 8 months, his spirit was troubled. But he talks about how he worked out a lot, how he did a lot of reading, notably how he read The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Let's see what else we got. He said that he's, towards the end of his stay, he mustered up enough strength to start writing screenplays, writing music, planning albums, planning projects, things of that nature. He also makes a point to say that, everything that's in his music is not necessarily first-hand experience, autobiographical account. He talks about how he likes to tell stories, allegories, how he likes to mix his experiences with the experiences of others, that he likes to tell stories, not necessarily his experiences, but stories of experiences that he's had, stories of the experiences of other people. He made a point to mention that, and how all that pretty much serves as the impetus behind his art. That's what sparks him. That's where the creativity lies. The guy that questioned him, that was doing the interview or whatever, he asked him, how does he feel about his gangster image? And Tupac aptly replied and said, look, man, it's not about trying to be a gangster. I'm not trying to promote gangsterism. I'm not trying to promote or push this false narrative. I'm just simply talking about what I see, and again, what I've experienced, or, the experiences of others. He also goes on to say that, crime as we know it will never go away. There's going to always be an outlaw society. Outlaw capitalism will always exist. As Huey Newton said, illegitimate capitalism. There will always be an economic infrastructure that is beneath the surface, what they may call the black market or the grind, whatever. That will always exist. So the bottom line is, we need to regulate it. And by regulating it, he was saying, like, we need to have, safe zones within the hood where, okay, this is where you can't sell dope, can't do no illegal shit, can't shoot nobody. Like, this is just where people can just chill and be civilians. And then he also talks about holding gangsters to task, essentially saying, like, look, if y'all gonna be destroying our community, y'all gotta give back. If you selling dope, if you trapping, doing whatever you do, the proceeds from some of that needs to go to the community. He talks about how they should build a community center, or help people go to college, go to school, what have you. And I thought that was, for him to be thinking like that, in hindsight, for him to be thinking like that at 24, that's pretty forward thinking. And the thing is, he, I think falsely the media painted him as like, you know, this like he didn't have, like there was no method to his madness. Like he was just real mercurial and spontaneous. Like there was no plotting and planning. And the thing is, there was a lot of his stuff. I mean, he politicized Thug Life. Again, Thug Life was a movement. Thug Life itself was an acronym. It said, "The hate you give little infants fucks everybody. The hate you give little infants fucks everybody." So essentially, it's like a self-perpetuating cycle. You know, the kids, you're hurt. You transfer that hurt to your community, and the little kids receive it, and they grow up, and then they hurt other people. So it's just, again, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, a self-perpetuated cycle. Then at one point, he talks about how, America is going to turn its resources against foreign land and may essentially implement those resources against blacks and Latinos. I can say that that's somewhat prophetic because we can see that with the prison industrial complex. We can see that with a lot of legislation that has been passed, and essentially a lot of blacks, I would say more so blacks, but Latinos as well. I know some people don't like the term Latino, but Hispanic, but some people don't like the term Hispanic. I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible, but blacks and Latinos, they've been a perpetual bottom caste, and pretty much they've been used. Their failures and the conditions that they've grown up in have been used to build the economy in this country. I mean, just to keep it a buck. I mean, you can look at the prison system. At one point, Tupac says, like, they sell jail space. They charge you for phone calls. They charge you for X, Y, and Z. And he was just saying, like, prisons are a commodity, especially when you think about privately owned prisons. But he was talking about, Pac also was saying in the interview how, like, look, man, like, this prison feeds a whole town. It's employing people. It's bringing in money. So it's like, it's essentially like convict leasing. Like, you need, not to say people don't need to go to jail and sit down. You do have people who need to sit down and learn from their mistakes. But furthermore, it's like it's such an economy that it creates a demand for more prisoners. So it's like, do we really want to correct them? Do we really want to make things better? It seems like there's more profit, there's more profits and letting the problem subsist. Let's see what else we got. He also talks about how, like, again, how the media misrepresents things, how the media paints an image, and people kind of just see it and just get in alignment with it, but without really peeling back the layers and the facts. Because again, with his case, he wasn't. A lot of people think, okay, well, he just raped her, and it wasn't like that. Again, like the evidence points to the fact that there was no signs of forcible entry. She had none of his semen on her body inside her. He does say that he used a condom, but again, there were no physical implications of rape. But everybody just ran with the narrative. He's talked about how a black man's sexuality is feared in this country. And how essentially black men are so maligned to the point where their whole reality is based on criminality. And at one point during the debate, one point during the interview, Pac says, the bottom line is this: I didn't create the thug image or the thug life. I'm talking about the things, the perfect storm that created thug life. He said, I diagnosed it. And then he uses an analogy with the doctor, saying how a doctor can discover the AIDS virus, can diagnose it, but he didn't create it. The doctor himself did not create it. And I thought that was a very good point. What else we got? He also talks about holding rap artists to task. Like in the sense of, you can't say, I'm from the hood, I love my hood, I die for my hood. But the bottom line is, you're not giving back to your hood, and everything you do is very destructive. And he's saying how we need to hold these artists accountable. you know, and really listen to their music. And again, he says it. We need to really listen to the music and see what's real. Like, are the things they're saying really real, or is it all for show? And then Pop made a really great point. He talked about how, you know, a lot of guys, they just want to live this image, this fantasy of a gangster or a thug. But the bottom line is, okay, if we really love our community that much, and we're really about that thug life, quote unquote, then let's start a revolution. Let's get our own land. Let's hold the government to task. You know, but he's saying guys don't want to do that because they're comfortable portraying this facade, playing this pontificating this image, you know. And I thought that was a really good point, because I think even now we can see how it's almost like a lot of these artists, you know, now in the game, they're using black culture to push their music, but they're not necessarily giving back to black people. And there's not a lot of social commentary in their music. You know, it's really just, well, they said hip hop went from Nino Brown to Pookie. You know, now it's like, it's cool to be an addict, you know? But, you know, it is what it is. He also goes on to talk about gangs and how gangs can be essentially turned into something positive if it's regulated and it's better organized. The gangs can serve their communities. They can protect their communities. He even says, like, it should get to the point where there are no acts of violence unless we're sparking it in defense of our neighborhoods. You know, and I mean, Tupac showed so much political acumen, political savvy, political understanding at such a young age. You know, and I wish there was more of that in context of hip hop now on the mainstream level. I think you can find it on the